longe eu penso em você. E com meus olhos fechados te vejo ao lado respirando. Sinto um calor se propagando. E desejo o perigo de um novo jeito. Um mar de lava incandescente faz de repente ver que eu quero esse mistério sempre. Não quero te perder e desejo o perigo, o desejo de um novo jeito. Arrisco todo o meu ouro, do meu amor como garantia para encontrar um tesouro e não bijuteria. Arrisco todo o meu ouro, do meu amor como garantia para encontrar um tesouro e não bijuteria. Todo o meu ouro e meu amor como garantia para encontrar um tesouro e não bijuteria.
Okay, everybody, happy Sunday. That was GAB.AI with Todo Meu Ouro, which means all of my gold in Portuguese. And I'd like to welcome Revan Starkiller, who.
Hello there.
What are your feelings about that little song there?
Dude, I laughed so hard when I saw that you were going to put this song because GAB.AI is the Brazilian band I hate the most. In the late 80s, it was the first time that Iron Maiden came to Brazil. And it's not only politics that's dysfunctional here in Brazil. The organization of these concerts are also completely dysfunctional. Because Iron Maiden came to play here and they put the GAB.AI to play before them.
They had GAB.AI opening for Iron Maiden? What the fuck?
Yes, and it was a total disaster. People started booing, throwing stuff at them, and the vocalist of GAB.AI, I think her name is Paula Toller.
Paula Toller. Yeah.
Yeah, she gave an interview saying, "Oh, those metalheads, they're so sexist and bigots." She's a proto SJW.
Yeah, the thing with her is that what's weird about that band is that there's two dudes, one with a saxophone and one with a guitar, and then there's
Yeah.
her. She's like this really. She does look pretty hot in the videos, although she's probably like
Yes.
80 years old now or something. But I'm exaggerating. But it always seemed to me if like I was like I actually got into some Brazilian music about 5, 10 years ago, and of probably 7 or 8 different genres. There's Charlie Brown Jr., which is a more folk
Yes.
band, and then there's Ratos de Porão.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, they're really good. I
yeah,
really like them.
yeah. So, and then there was this one, which if you're kind of trying to relax in the library while studying, could be better. But I always thought that it might be that she's getting double teamed by those two dudes, and it was like pretty weird. Like there was
Yeah, but
always
they have kind of a beta male vibe. I don't know. I don't know if they if they ever have had anything with her. I'm not sure. And I think she aged well. I think she looks good until nowadays.
yeah.
I'm
So
not sure actually.
So she's also, we're talking about Brazil. It has diversity in music, has diversity in of course, there's probably more different racial groups in Brazil than any place else, at least in the Western Hemisphere. There's a lot of people from Africa, obviously, indigenous people, Ukrainians, Japanese, Germans,
Yeah,
Italians. So when
huge
you,
influence from the Japanese here.
yeah, and I think. I believe that you had what was his name? I'm trying to think. There was a guy. Did you have a president who was Polish or something?
President that was Polish, not that I know of, but
Kubitschek maybe.
Kubitschek, yes, yes.
Was he
I,
Polish
I,
or
I,
Ukrainian
I
or
didn't
something?
know he was Polish.
But in any case, you guys have in Brazil like everybody here in America complains about diversity. You guys have diversity. How's it working out for you? Has it solved? Is Brazil the country that everybody's jealous of, or do you feel that there's something?
Not at all, dude. Not at all. Because even though there is a lot of diversity here, there has always been even the far most fascist movements. They were always for diversity. If you look into the integralistas propaganda, they were also into diversity. They were for Indians and black people and all this sort of stuff. It never worked well. And the funny thing is that despite all that, the media still behaves like Brazil is a racist country. That there needs to be more diversity, even more. And actually, things are taking a really weird path here because of that. Because then you have some discrepancies that. For example, if you shoot somebody in the head in the middle of the street, there are chances that nothing's gonna happen to you. But don't you dare calling somebody a monkey here. You're gonna go to jail right away, dude. It's amazing.
But you said the word right now. That's like the sin word here in America now. Monkey. You
Oh
can't.
yeah,
Yeah,
here
if you heard
too.
about
Here
that.
too.
Yeah, we had a politician who said you can't monkey up the state with socialism, and because his opponent happens to be a black guy, they said, well, he's obviously talking about his opponent, but he didn't even mention the opponent in the sentence.
Yeah, like
So
what happened also to Roseanne, no?
yeah,
That
the
she made
same
that joke about the Planet of the Apes.
same exact thing. Even though Sarah Silverman has said things that are much more offensive than that. Um,
Yeah, sure.
So we are talking about, of course, I think you're the second guest I have on from Brazil. The first guest we were talking to, I think, over a year ago, when there was the trial of President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, who is still in the
Yep.
news, and he was convicted in Operação what is it, Lava Jato? Wait,
Lava Jato.
Lava Jato, and I think that since then people thought maybe he would recede from the headlines, but he hasn't. You've lived it. I mean, first of all, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking, and what was your experience
Um,
living under Mr. Lula?
I'm 33. The first time he ran, I used to be quite on the left back then. I voted for him in his first term. Um, yeah, I'm kind of ashamed of that because I was all hopeful. Oh, yeah, things now are gonna change. But I jumped off the wagon quite fast because the corruption scandals started coming out like I think in the first year of his term, and then he started aligning himself with the old politics because he used to say, "Oh, I'm gonna introduce the new politics in Brazil, and we're gonna get rid of the old." And now, suddenly, he was making alliances with Collor. I don't know if you know him, the first
Lolo de
president
Mello.
that got, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he was the first one that got impeached here. And Lula's ascension was thanks to this dude because they ran against each other. Then Lula lost, and there was all this scandal that the debate wasn't live, that the TV edited the debate to favor Collor, and Lula basically built his reputation on that he's the underdog that was wrong, that was cheated on, and Collor is a far right extremist, that he ruined the country and that he should win. And a couple of years later, that he gets elected, he forges an alliance with Collor. And there's even an interesting fact that in Brasilia, they in the government building there, I'm not sure which one, they had those pictures of historic moments of Brazil, and they had pictures of the marches against Collor when the people were asking for his impeachment. Lula ordered them to remove those pictures from there.
Yeah, so essentially, Lula became basically the creature, like we say in America, the creature of the swamp,
Yeah.
the same type of swamp he wanted to drain. Now you do have a person who is running. This photo is on the screen in this Time
Yeah,
magazine.
Bolsonaro.
Yeah, is it Jair Bolsonaro? Is that how you say it?
Yes, it's Jair Messias Bolsonaro.
So this guy is called the Brazilian Trump. He is Christian, Catholic,
Yes.
and
He's Catholic, but for political reasons, because I think his current party is evangelical. And he even made a recent tour in Israel. He went, I don't know what's the place where the evangelicals go there to get baptized in some lake or something like that.
yeah, I'm not sure either. Maybe the Canaries.
But he went there like to kind of pander to the evangelicals, and he talked about having. He's basically trying to pander to our version of the APEC.
So is this guy? Do you think he'll be any better than the other people, or is he kind of just a different different version, like with a different packaging?
I'm not sure. I'm honestly considering voting for him, but it's pretty much out of anger against the media and the establishment here, because the media here is taking the same approach with him that they were taking with Trump in the U.S. election. Oh, he's a Nazi, he's a bigot, he's a homophobe, and all this stuff, and it's so cringy to watch that. But I'm not sure. First, I don't think he's nothing like Trump. He's really media-wise, he's really unprepared. Trump knew what he was doing. At least that's the impression I had from Trump. When Trump would show up in the news and in the debates, I think he knew what the people that are watching him, what they wanted to listen. Bolsonaro doesn't have anything of that. He's pretty much raw. Political wise, I think I don't even believe he's much of a right winger, like in the economical sense, and he's been criticized a lot in that matter. There are those more liberal center right political groups that totally despise him, always bashed him. And he tried in the last couple of years, tried to improve his opinions on economy. He talks nowadays about making the state smaller, about I'm not sure if he ever talked about cutting taxes, but he's trying to sound more economically liberal than he actually is. And what I find strange is that the media, all they do is go into this routine of calling him a Nazi, calling him a racist. And I think if the left and the media really wanted to take him down, they just need to dig his past and his sayings from the past and show to the right that he's not really a right winger. In there was this president, Fernando Henrique Cardoso.
Mhm.
He privatized the national mining company here, the Vale do Rio Doce. And when that happened, Bolsonaro had an interview that he said that Fernando Henrique was a traitor of the nation and that he deserved the firing squad for selling the national company. So at least in my book, that doesn't sound really right winger. It sounds more like a Castro-like, something like that.
Yeah,
But
like over here would be considered something that Bernie would say, or
yeah,
yeah, and I think that people do evolve in their political careers, but yeah, absolutely. I think when you're pandering, like you said, he would pander to the APAC type people here in the U.S. and I can say this because I'm I think you've watched my channel a few times, so I'm
yeah.
a former Israeli soldier or whatever, and I think APAC is the biggest joke ever. I think it basically sustains like a relationship that's mutually harmful. And I can say
Mhm.
that, but a lot of these politicians will go to their conference trying to basically whore themselves out for donor money. And then when they get into office, they'll do things that are both adverse to Israel, or they'll pretty much fork over a lot of foreign aid and whatever. What do you think? I mean, you've lived there your entire life in Brazil. What's like the industry that has too much influence over Brazilian politics, if there is one?
Um, there is this dude that has been around forever. His name is Jorge Gerdau. And if I'm not wrong, he is from the. Uh, I hope I'm not saying something wrong here, but I think it's related to the mining sector, metalwork, forging, and stuff like that.
So I
And
think
he has been
I pulled
around
up his
forever.
name. Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead. Keep going.
and he's been around forever. And he has a really heavy influence on politics here, even if it's really under the hood. Most people here don't know a lot about him. I honestly myself don't know a lot about him. It's just that in the recent years, since Dilma's election, I started paying more attention on more obscure right-wing groups here, web radio stuff, and they would talk a lot about this dude. That he basically made a fortune doing deals with the government and buying and selling scraps to industries here. And I remember seeing stuff from his industries here since I'm a kid. There's also the people from Freeboy that they were even involved in the latest scandals. That it's the meat industry.
Hmm. We
And
have Gerdau's photo up. He seems like a real smashing dude. If you can see it on the
uh,
screen.
I don't see it. I think I have a huge lag on the YouTube page here. Let me refresh it. But he has a huge influence over politics. There is also the people from Freeboy that it was learned that they would give money to campaigns from all the sides. They'll give money to the left, to the right. I mean, I can't even say if there's really a right here in Brazil.
Yeah, I would say that. So I think I don't know if you've seen some of my streams on Nicaragua or I've done a lot on Venezuela, and I
Yeah,
focus.
some of them, yes.
Yeah, I focus a lot more on, like, a lot of people, they talk only about the socialism aspect. They don't. In my opinion, it's not only the socialism, because I think that really in a lot of countries in Latin America, both the socialist and non-socialist ones, you just don't have a separation of power. You don't have like a real rule of law, independent judiciary or anything, and that's really why I think a lot of those countries are really they're suffering through decades and decades of just complete corruption and lack of development. I mean, you could look at, I believe in Argentina, there's a crisis going on right now that I haven't covered yet, and I need to kind of
Yes.
read up on. But and that's not necessarily a socialist country right now, even though they just have the Kirchners. So
No, no, not at all. I believe actually economically wise, at least, Latin American countries are quite fascist in the sense that the line that separates the state from the industries, it's really blurred. There are those economical groups that have been around forever, and yeah, I consider economically wise the regimes here quite fascist in that aspect. And even when they tend to go to the right, they don't manage to get rid of this influence that has been around here. And I think it's pretty much the same in all countries around here.
So you guys had in the 40s and 50s, you had Getulio Vargas, who was of
Yes.
course, you hinted at him because he had the integralist movement. I'll put his.
I think he was against them. I think he actually arrested them. He was a big fascist, but I think he actually was against the integralist movement, if I'm not wrong.
From what I remember reading, he kind of he got to power thanks to them, and then maybe he stabbed them in the back later.
Yeah, it's possible.
So he actually committed suicide, I think, when he was in power. And I don't think Americans could think of something like that happening. But of course, in the 40s and 50s, a lot of countries in Latin America, you can think of not just in Brazil, but Argentina again with Juan Perón. They looked at fascism as a good way to reform their countries because they honestly did not have very good civil societies in some of these countries. They had I mean, even after Vargas killed himself, another guy came into power, Joe Goulart, who decided, well, Rio is too chaotic. We need a new capital. They'll put it in Brasilia. Brasilia is basically the first space age capital
in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
and it's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I actually saw a nice short film about that, how chaotic it was to build it, and then there were just these slums built around it because they had to get people to work there. So, would you say that one of the reasons that Brazil became so dysfunctional over those years, and then of course there was a military coup that lasted, there was a military regime for 20 years, was Brazil trying to develop too fast for its own speed?
I don't know. I think actually, I don't know if it's a matter of trying to develop too fast or not. I think it's more a matter that there is stuff that have been happening here since the regime of Getúlio Vargas that happens until nowadays. Until last year, we had the same labor law that Getúlio Vargas imposed. Also, an interesting fact is that Lula is a huge Getúlio Vargas fan. I've already heard journalists saying that if you want to work for Lula, you got to know his entire biography. And even during Lula's term, there were those Brazilian movies glorifying the history of Getúlio Vargas, and he was a big douche. I mean, there is a book that you might find interesting that's called The Scandal of the Oil, written by no, I can't remember the name.
You can send it to me. I could probably buy it. Yeah, sure. Even if it's in Portuguese, is the name of the author. I can read Portuguese. Okay.
Okay.
But so you're saying that basically, I mean, surprise, a leftist politician is taking after a fascist template, as in Vargas did. I mean, can you believe
pretty much that? Yeah, what a surprise, right?
Well, I would say this. Okay, so I think we have a guy who listens to this channel once in a while. His name is Perseus Gold, and he's an open fascist from Canada. I'm not.
Yeah, I think I've seen him.
Yeah, he sends me mail once in a while. It's kind of interesting, his messages, but I personally I think that giving any power to the state that infringes on people's liberties, you have to have something that at least counterbalances that. Now, in Brazil, you have, of course, there is no freedom of the right to bear arms like we have in the U.S., but there is rampant gun crime. There are pretty horrible prisons over there. Of course, there's logging companies that basically come over to people's land and fuck it up, and or I guess just the rainforest too. So, if you speaking as a private citizen, what is the deal? Why is it so difficult for the average person to get justice in Brazil? Is it, or I mean, you can take as long as you want. It doesn't sound like the answer will be very simple, but go ahead.
I think the basic problem here in that matter is that first, that unfortunately we have the mentality here that everybody here believes that the state really needs to take care of everything. Like, oh, you need to take care of us. You need to take care of us, and it's basically a mentality that you're gonna find both in the left and also with people that consider themselves right wingers, because the people that consider themselves right wingers here, they are basically economically wise, in the matters of the size of the state, they think pretty much alike the left. What they appreciate is actually stuff from the moral aspects, like gay marriage, drugs, this sort of stuff. But in the economical field, in the role of the state, they have a pretty much similar view on that matter. And people are not really interested in change. I mean, they manage to get comfortable in the worst situations possible. You have a media here that glorifies misery. Have you ever watched a lot of Brazilian movies? Have you ever watched City of God,
Yeah,
Elite
see,
Squad?
I watched that movie and I was blown away. But I mean, there are only a couple other Brazilian movies that I've seen, and they all seem to show the country like half of the country is like really cool, and there's like like it just seems like half of the country is like enjoying itself all the time, and the other half is basically like hell on earth. So
Yeah. And in the last year, there has been this narrative that, for example, if you live in a slum, you should be proud of it. Anybody that says that it's bad, that you talk wrong, that you have no education, that you have no basic stuff, those people are racist. You should be proud that you live in a miserable life. I think that's one thing that influentiates a lot in the current situation of the country. I mean, people are pretty much comfortable in the situation that they find themselves in. I think it happens quite a bit in the US too. People that live in on social welfare nets that learn to get quite comfortable in this kind of situation. And honestly, between most Brazilians, between having a change for more justice, for a smaller state that would respect more the will of their people, between that and have a nanny state that's going to take care of you, most people here are going to go for the nanny state. It's something that's pretty much engraved in our DNA. Almost everybody here thinks like that. I've talked to people here that would say, "Oh, it might be amazing to go live in Canada. You arrive there, and the government is gonna find you a job right away." And you have this kind of mentality here, and the politicians roll on that. They know that if they give you every month something that it's around $200. You give the people that, and you can do whatever you want. It's pretty clear with Lula. I mean, there's scandal after scandal about him, but the people that get small money in the end of the month from the government, they're fine with it. As long as they're getting something small, they are happy. They don't really want change. It's quite a messy situation here, and honestly, I don't know how that could be solved, because even Bolsonaro during the last debates, on that matter, the left completely won here. All the politicians, all the candidates, they say, no, we're gonna keep welfare, we're gonna increase welfare because it's unfair to not have welfare for the poor people. So I'm quite hopeless in that matter here. I don't know what needs to happen for this mentality to change here. It's a really hard task.
for those of you that are just joining, we have Revan Starkiller here. We've actually been in touch for a while, but finally got him for a live stream talking about Brazil and the politics, and of course the election coming up, I believe in October. We'll get back to that. I think one of the issues that I think people also ignore about Brazil is that it's a massive country with very different regions. Of course, you go into the Alagoas, which is over by I think it's the northeast coast.
Yes,
and it's not anywhere near to the same type of climate or type of people as Rio Grande do Sul. which is
Yeah, it's a
kind of
completely
cowboy
different
country.
country. It's a completely different country. The mentality is completely different. And another problem here in Brazil is that on an election, only the absolute number of votes are considered. It's not like there in the US that there is the if I'm not wrong, like the each vote is counted. It's counted by state.
Mhm.
Is it right?
Yeah, you have
Here it
electoral votes.
Yeah, they consider the absolute number and that's it. So what happens here in Brazil? You get those miserable small towns in the north, in the northeast, and let's say that there is a guy from the Workers' Party running, and there is this town that they have a mayor that's from the Workers' Party. They're gonna rent a bus. They're gonna put everybody in this bus. They're gonna pay lunch for them, and they're gonna tell them to vote for their party. And that's pretty much what decides who's going to win in the elections here,
So
because you
that
have
so
more
that
developed region. Yep.
there is
Sorry,
no electoral vote there. Like it's completely popular vote.
it's completely popular. Yes.
Okay, yeah, keep going. Sorry, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah. And basically that's what screw up so much the system here, because even if you have regions, for example, São Paulo, people there are massively anti-left, I'd say. They hate the Workers' Party, but their vote pretty much doesn't matter, because their numbers need to go against some state in the north that it's full of people, and they're told who to vote for in exchange of a snack. That's pretty much what decides the election here.
So we have the ruling party up until I think it was 2016 that Revan Starkiller was referring to as the Workers' Party, the Petistas.
Yes.
And they are basically they had President Lula. They had President is it Rousseff or Rousseff? How do you say it? It's
I believe it's Rusev. I don't know. I think it's Bulgarian. I'm
right,
not
yeah.
sure.
But I think the R in Portuguese is like an H, right?
Yeah. We say Rusev here.
Yeah. So I think she reminded me of this was like when she got elected. I was like, it looks like this, like Ursula from Little Mermaid. I don't know if people can see the.
Yeah, the villain from Little Mermaid. Yeah.
Yeah, this was the. I don't know. Maybe I can get them side by side. So, yeah, right here. Yeah, it's the same. It's the same face. It is. I mean, sorry for her. I personally, she never did anything to me, but I heard she fucked up the oil company there and most other things that are going.
Yeah, and she was a terrorist too. She was a hardcore terrorist.
Yes, but she was doing it for the sea, for the sea creatures. Are you talking about Rusev?
Yeah.
I was talking about Ursula. So.
Yeah, I confused them both.
Yeah.
They're both terrifying.
Yeah, so Arjun, I don't know if you've ever seen, we've had him on. He's from Bengal,
Yeah.
and he's from Kolkata. He says there was a Brazilian article I had once read that said the economic divide was along racial lines. How true is that?
Well, it's sort of true, but you have to consider that, let's say, because here, even in private schools, they're going to teach you that the blacks do choose slavery, they are unprivileged, and they'll always be poor, all that routine that probably happens in the US too. But unlike in the US, here in Brazil, 60% of the population is black. If you go to more undeveloped states, blacks are going to be a massive majority. That is kind of true, but also if you go to the south, you're gonna find 100% white people with no teeth that can barely speak, and they work all day on tobacco plantations. So it's kind of true. Huh?
The caipirinhas?
Yeah, caipira. Yes, caipirinha is the drink.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. I've forgotten some stuff I learned about Brazil, but. Yeah, it's fascinating that in Brazil, I think somebody once I read an article that there's like over 700 racial phenotypes, as they call it in I think genealogy or whatever they call it.
Mm-hmm.
Not what's the science? Yeah, genealogy, isn't that the science of genetics? Anyway, so
I'm not sure.
It doesn't matter. There's 700 plus phenotypes in Brazil. because there's just so many different groups that of course there were waves of immigration from all over
Yes.
Europe. There were waves of immigration from Asia. There were waves of immigration.
Yes.
Of course, there was the slave colonies, the what do they call them, the quilombos over there that
Yes.
that
Yes.
broke away, and they were independent for parts of the Portuguese rule of Brazil, and basically it has. I mean, I think compared to a number of countries in the region, for example, Paraguay, which is basically, nothing there. It's just vast spaces of emptiness. I think
Hmm.
like Brazil has very nice industry. I've looked for jobs there because I've thought about leaving the country, but I don't think that's a good idea right now.
No,
But
it's not, dude. Don't do
yeah,
that.
I mean, you got to try something once in a while. But the issue I'm seeing here is that you really do have kind of a lot of great contributions from different types of people, but when you talk about leadership, it's just kind of a mess because they never really developed into a country that, or you guys have never developed into a country where, like I said earlier, there's a rule of law, but you do have a constitution and everything. And does Brazil have like a Bill of Rights of its own, or is it kind of more of the model that you see in some of the neighboring countries in in South America?
Uh, if we have a Bill of Rights, I'm not even sure we do. We have a constitution that is really young. It's from 80, 84, 87. I'm not sure. And it's a damn book. I mean, it's something totally complicated. If you try to read it, you're not going to understand anything that it says. And they keep changing it. I think some years ago there was a politician that added to the constitution that trying to emulate that what you guys have in the US, that the right of the pursuit of happiness.
Yeah.
They
So
added here that the right to be happy. It's
no, well, okay, so that is different. It's actually not
yeah,
not really. Those two are kind of completely different from
completely
each other.
opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're trying to. Oh no, we're gonna do like in the US. But I mean, if the right to be happy, it's in the constitution. It means that the state should grant you happiness. I mean, how does that work?
Well, we have, you're probably well aware, but there's a whole issue with Russia nowadays. Everybody
Yeah.
wants to talk about how awful of a country it is, but Vladimir Putin. You can, I mean, obviously, I wouldn't want to live there, even as hilarious as he is with wrestling those tigers and shit. But Vladimir Putin says up front, look, my job is to make this country strong. If you don't like it, you can go fuck yourself. That's real. And it's an honest approach to governance over there. It's not honest.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
he does steal a lot of shit, but, I guess people know that already. Well, so do you think Brazil, you have this Jair Bolsonaro who could come back to power or come to power. You could have hypothetically, I mean, I still see like this small window where Lula could come back, and we'll get back to his issue right now with the elections. And he would have a third term. Do you have any fear that Brazil would fall under kind of a total totalitarian regime again, like was what happened during the military regime of the 60s, 70s, and 80s?
If with Bolsonaro, probably not, because the entire parliament would turn against him and they would block anything that he wants to do, even if he wanted to become a dictator. And honestly, I don't believe he has chances of winning. He has chances of going to a second term against Marina. I
Hmm.
don't know if you know her.
No, I
That at
don't
the
know.
same time she's a communist, an environmentalist, and an evangelical. All the three at the same time.
Oh, it sounds like she needs a new show on the E Network here.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's an interesting take, and yeah, I think I talk to a lot of people here who are on the left, and of course some people on the right as well. I think I actually speak to more people on the left, which is,
Mhm.
is kind of interesting because I haven't been really in favor of socialism since probably I was 15 years old. But I keep telling people here that even if you vote for a candidate that I think is a complete dumbass like Bernie Sanders, I still think you should have the right to vote for whoever you want. Is there
Yeah,
a
sure.
yeah? Is there a voter shaming effort in Brazil telling people if you vote for Mr. Bolsonaro, you're
Oh
basically
yeah.
like a Nazi or something?
Yeah, yeah, totally, totally. I kind of hear that all the time. Yesterday, I almost got thrown out of a cab because of that. Because I have to stop with this habit of talking politics with random people that I meet. And the guy started saying, "No, but this Bolsonaro, he's a crazy dude. He's totally insane. He's Hitler reincarnated." I said, "I don't really think that." And the guy went, "Are you fucking crazy? How can you do that? Don't you know that he's gonna destroy the country?" The left here and I've said that to some leftist friends of mine. Check out what the media tried to do to Trump, and don't commit the same mistakes. Because if you keep pushing it, you guys are going to end up electing him, not the right. You guys are going to end up electing him if you keep this routine of vote shaming, calling him the reincarnation of Hitler. That's not going to work. Even though I really don't think he has a chance, because if he goes on a second term against Marina, all the other parties are going to go with her because nobody likes him. Because and something on how can I say, something good that he's done that I really respect what he did. He was the first politician ever that had the balls to go to in Brasilia to denounce the collusion between Lula, Chavez, and Castro. Nobody ever dared to talk about it here in Brazil. And Bolsonaro was the very first dude to say, "Listen, there's a collusion between the left in Latin America since the early 90s. No party here in Brazil is right winger. They are all colluding with this group that you even covered it sometimes in your channel as the UNASUR."
Yep.
Yeah, and he also denounced this. There is this meeting that happens. I don't know with which frequency. That's called the Foro de São Paulo. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
Yep.
So he had balls to go live on the state TV in front of all the politicians and calling it out. But he was the first one to do that. So nobody in the other party likes him. Nobody else likes him. So I think his chances of winning are virtually zero. Even though I think it's good that he would get to a second term, because at least the far left would realize that they're losing ground here in the politics, and it's something that they had total control over basically since the end of the military government here.
Yeah, to give some context for the viewer, so what Revan Starkiller, who's joined us today, is referring to is that they're in Latin America. Not that we can change it, because I mean they're still sovereign countries as they should be, but there are two blocks made up of really far left countries. There's the ALBA group, which is the Association of Bolivarian countries, or whatever the fuck they call themselves. And then there's the UNASUR, which is a little more focused on South America specifically as a continent. And their leadership is basically geared towards creating a more integrated bloc of far left countries in South America to compete with the USA. Now, I guess on paper, I mean, it's their right and everything. What really happens when they do that is that they create basically the same type of garbage multinational union that you have in Europe with the EU. And what the example I brought up was where Guillaume Long, who was the former foreign minister of Ecuador, was bitching like a fucking tranny about the fact that they lost their building in Quito, which is in Ecuador, to a bunch of indigenous people that were protesting his government for drilling for oil on their land. And he's complaining about them getting the building, which I guess they could. I mean, who knows if they're going to use the building for anything good? But the fact is that, you know, my personal perspective is that government should be responsive to the constituents, to the people that are electing it. That's why I think, for example, in Brazil, there could be a better case for regionalizing more, letting some of these states have a little more independence and leeway,
Yeah.
as opposed to the way that it seems to be going from the outside. I don't know how it's changing in that respect, but instead of concentrating more power they wanted to put the parliament in Cochabamba, all the way in the middle of Bolivia, where nobody can get there, basically make it
Yeah.
an unaccountable government. Why do you need to do that? Why can't Ecuador run its own affairs? If Ecuador wants to screw over its indigenous people, then they should be accountable to the citizens of the country. I think that we're really having an issue nowadays where the left, they complain about justice for indigenous people here in the USA, and I agree with that. I think that we have issues with treating our own Indian citizens, on the reservations. They're basically wards of the state. So they complain about that
Yeah.
here. They don't have a solution for it. Then you look at the countries in Latin America, Venezuela, Ecuador. You can talk even about Peru back in the day, Brazil. These leftist governments don't appreciate the actual citizen rights of these tribes. So, I mean, where do you live? You live in the Sao Paulo area, or
Yeah, it's close to São Paulo. I mean, Minas Gerais.
okay,
It's above São Paulo.
okay, yeah, the
and
north of
yeah, to the north of São Paulo. Here in Brazil, we're supposed to be a federative republic, pretty much like in the US. The thing is that the people here don't like that. The government here don't like that. They want always bigger government, because here it's supposed to be like that. Each state is supposed to have its own laws. The people in the state should decide how the things are going to work, but that doesn't happen here. We are a federative republic just in the name, because even the way the tax money distribution works is completely fucked up here, because the money of the taxes, they go straight to Brasilia, and then Brasilia redistributes it to the states. And you can imagine how much money gets lost in the way when that happens.
Yeah, absolutely, and so we'll get to now the issue of why Ms. Rousseff, the president of Brazil, up until 2 years ago, left power, had to be removed from power, I guess.
She's coming back though.
Does she have the octopus tentacles though?
Yeah, she does. I really believe she does, dude. She's fucking scary. She's from my town. She was born here. And there's even the building where she lived that everybody that's a leftist passes by. Oh, this is the building where Dilma Rousseff lived. It's amazing, because there's the story that the military police was coming after her, and the guy that worked at the entrance of the building helped her escape, and then she escaped to the south, where she became a guerrilla terrorist. And people here worship her, and she's coming back this year. Because she was only removed from the presidency. She wasn't impeached, because in the Brazilian law, if you are impeached, you are unable to run from any public office for 8 years. And she's coming back now. She's running for Senate for Minas. Sorry.
Yeah, so the reason that she was removed from power, there was the Odebrecht scandal, and of course there was Petro. I talk a lot, and maybe people think it's not that important, about PDVSA, which is the state oil conglomerate of Venezuela, which is basically collapsing day by day. But in Brazil, you have a similar company called Petrobras, which has massive contracts that they do with a lot of these, obviously construction companies would be one of them, and I think Odebrecht was a construction company, right?
Yes, they acted in many different fields. I can't even tell you specifically what they worked with, but yeah, I think the biggest thing that they did was construction. They even were the ones that did the reform in Lula's apartment.
Yeah. So I talked to the lady who was here last time. I don't even remember her name. She's kind of lost touch because I don't think she even wants to talk Brazilian politics. But she said that there were so many like goofy things that they did. Like they made invoices for like the 32nd of like October or something, like dates that don't exist and shit like that. And you know the people. So here in the U.S. we have, of course, some left wing media that keep saying this is a soft coup. This is basically the globalist, capitalist, Hitler people trying to prevent Brazil from actually having progress.
Yeah, we had Danny Glover coming here and whine about Lula being arrested. Did you know that?
Oh, is there video of that? We could play that.
Yeah, I'm gonna look. Let me check.
Yeah, you can send it to me. But yeah, I'll kick it back to you when you send it to me. But the thing is here, so I don't think that Brazil is in a good place now that Rousseff and Lula were removed from power. But what I think is like they can't have it both ways. Okay, whenever there's a massive like upheaval in one of these countries, like what ended up happening in Venezuela that brought Chavez to power, they call that a revolution. They never call that a soft coup. They think it's the greatest shit in the world. They think that's like their basically their wet dream. But whenever it happens,
it's the will of the people incarnated. It's almost like the Sun King.
Right, and when that happened to Rousseff herself in Brazil, there were demonstrations. I remember watching like small clips of them, but there were easily 400,000 people in the streets, 500,000 people in the streets, and people do know that, you know, I think personally, you have to have at least the acknowledgement that both left-wing and right-wing governments can be failures, because in the end, it's still a human being running at the top. So as a Brazilian, did people at the time look at it as a soft coup, as these leftist Americans are saying, or were they looking at it as really her getting her just desserts?
The people that support the Workers' Party, of course, they believe it's a coup. Actually, I don't even know if they really believe that or if it's just a routine that the left does. But most people here wanted her out. I went to some of the protests against her, and it was huge. It was massive, and you had all sorts of political ideologies in that. You had leftists there that were against her. You had far right. So I would risk saying that 90% of the population here don't believe it was a soft coup. Even though I'll agree, I'll concede to the left the fact that Temer should have went down with her.
Right. Yeah. That was a good point. That he himself is very corrupt and was involved in some of the same scandals.
Yeah. Because his party, it's the most corrupt party. Well, I don't know if they are the most corrupt, but they are the most powerful one, because they are the party of the democratic mobilization. So they are a huge party that they never have a direct nominee for office, but everybody that is in some public office has to pander to them in order to not be taken down. That's pretty much when I learned that. That's pretty much when I started my path of distancing myself from the left. That when I learned that Lula, in order to stay in power, he needs to pander to PMDB, which is Temer's party. And that's when I started realizing how things work here, more or less. And I really believe that most of the problems here, they are the party that wrote our most recent constitution. Who wrote the Brazilian constitution that is valid nowadays was his party. He was there. People that are in the politics until nowadays are still here. And in that matter, that's saying that, let's say that his party stabbed the Workers' Party in the back, I'll even concede that point to the left and I agree with it. But if it was a coup, I really think it's some sort of cognitive dissonance, because you have the leftists here yelling, "Oh, it's a state coup! It's a coup!" And out with Temer. But dude, who voted for Temer? The right or you guys? You guys elected him. When you typed in our wonderful electronical machines here to vote, there was his picture there. He was there with Dilma. So what the hell are you guys whining about? He's your guys. but they ignore that.
Yeah, what I see, and Arjun has this idea. He says it would be hilarious and horrifying to see a Dilma Rousseff bikini blimp in the Brazilian capital, like
Oh my
City
god.
Khan. But that's there's something that I'm seeing here where there's simply a refusal to recognize people's flaws. Now, of course, I come from of course a country where we've had President Bush, who I never supported, and John
Mhm.
McCain, who I never supported, and then people say, well, you are voting for Trump. Why can't you respect all the other Republican candidates? I say, well, because I'm not a Republican. I think Donald Trump is relatively a lot better than them because they all sucked.
Yeah.
So then people are like, but you're supposed to support a party. I'm like, no, I don't support your shitty party, the Democrats, and this party that's in power right now, the Republicans. If they were allowed to do whatever the hell they wanted, we would still never solve any problems, and it would basically be a mess. Now, for those of you that are joining, we have of course a guest from Brazil, Revan Starkiller. And the issues we're talking about today are, first of all, there is a candidate who I'll show his picture for a second here, Jared
I
Bol-
sent you through Twitter DM the link of the Danny Glover video.
Might be a problem to get it through Twitter. You can send it directly through the Hangouts. By the way, there's a little message box at the bottom of the screen.
Okay. Okay, I see it.
So
Here we go.
there's Jair Bolsonaro, who's running right now. He's kind of this right-wing dude who's into evangelicalism, I guess now. Now, and then of course, before we get to the video, let me try to pause it. So before we get to the video, there's also the issue of Lula, who has been barred, I think, as of this weekend from running in the presidential race. He was president.
Yeah, it was Friday that they voted it.
Yeah. 6-1 decision by the electoral court. So he was president from 2003 to 2011, and then I think one of his top aides, Dilma Rousseff, was then the president from 2011 to 2015.
15.
Right. So this is a country where they've had basically one president who's been sentenced to prison, another president right after him who's been impeached. The current president is also pretty much a slimy salamander of corruption. And then
he totally looks like Dracula. Did you notice that?
Tamir, I don't remember what Tamir looks like. Let me look him up. So this to see the audience would get.
Politics here are almost like a comedy show.
Yeah, it's what's so weird is that Brazil has like the most beautiful women in the world. They also have they also do have like a lot of a lot of the dudes there are in better shape. Like here in America, you have people who are basically melting out of their clothes, and in fact, I'm not like the most in shape guy either. But there's people who basically look like they're falling apart. And in Brazil, this guy actually is kind of in shape, but he does look like he'd probably feed you to a shark or something if he could. But in any case, let me see. Video isn't rendering. What do you want me to do? Arjun Sinha's like saying the video. I don't know what to do about that. Let me see how the video health is doing.
It froze.
Oh, it is? Yeah, it could be that I've lost connection to the OBS. 1 second. Good thing I was looking at the chat.
Just in that you.
So, let me see here.
Yeah, here I see the the video going at like 1 frame per second.
Yeah,
but
maybe
it's
I can.
going, I think.
Maybe I can fix the streaming. 1 second. Let me go settings. Try to go less quality. Maybe it'll be better. So yeah, what were we talking about? Oh yeah,
Oh,
we're talking about ugly presidents. So yeah, this guy is
yes.
actually he actually is in good shape. He just looks evil.
Yeah, he looks like Bela Lugosi. He
Yeah.
kind of looks like him.
So yeah, I mean we still have Donald Trump is I mean I'm not gonna lie, he doesn't look like he doesn't look very like aesthetically pleasing either, but I would think like in Brazil you wouldn't have like every single leader basically looks like a supervillain or something.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
let me see here.
Bolsonaro looks kind of middle-aged Richard Spencer.
Yeah, that's it's I mean you guys have to get like somebody like really like you have to get like some hot chick elected president or something.
Yeah, I agree. Well, Collor, he was a handsome. He's still kind of in shape. He was a handsome president. A lot of ladies voted for him because he looked good only. It didn't really work well in the end, but we tried that route as well.
Well, I heard he had some good ideas. He was just kind of dirty to the core.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, there's a lot of injustice that goes on about him here because they say that what took him down, that he stole the savings from the old here, and I don't even know how much of that it's really true. But what really took him down is that I don't know if I can translate the term, but he was basically known as the guy that would hunt down all the public employees that were leaning on the state.
Oh, okay. So
We call those marajas here, but I don't know how it will be this term in English. You know, the guy that his entire family is of public employees, and they are really wealthy, and they don't really work, and they get a lot of money from the state.
yeah, I mean we call that just public nepotism there, but I don't think we have like a name
Yeah,
for what type of official that is. Um, so anyway, like getting to the current issue, Tamer was basically just brought to power because Lula's successor, Rousseff, went down in that corruption scandal. Now, Lula was barred from the presidential election this year.
yeah.
Um, so what do you think? You think that other lady is going to be the new president? Who she actually does look pretty good looking. Let me see if I can get her photo. But
Are you talking about Manuela Davila?
yeah, it might have been her. So
Yeah, because it's the only one that I can think of that doesn't scare the hell out of me.
well, I'll get her. Marina Silva. No, she doesn't look that good. She actually looks kind of like.
No, Marina Silva looks like Skeletor.
Yeah, she also looks like she probably like some sort of zombie creature. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and there are lots of conspiracy theories about her because I don't know if you know Chico Mendes, this environmentalist activist that was really famous until the 90s.
Hmm.
She basically ascended into politics because of him, and he died. In the last election, she was running as the VP for Eduardo Campos. Eduardo Campos died, and now she's running on her own to become president. It's like she's always next to some dude to ascend more into politics, and the dude always end up dying. She's pretty much like the Black Widow of politics here.
So let me see if the video is working again. I don't know if people are. Do you have it up? Yeah, it looks like it is
Yeah, June
frozen.
says that it's frozen. Yeah.
I don't know what to do about that. I mean, if I stop the stream on this type of
Maybe if you
broadcast,
turn off the webcam feed, it would help.
my webcam feed is through the Hangouts. That's the issue.
Ah, okay.
So, like let me see if I can. Yeah, maybe if I turned off mine and he turned off yours, and they didn't see either of us.
So I have
So,
to click on the camera here
yeah, we'll just
to
do
turn it off,
the
or
I.
am I gonna?
Yeah, just click on the camera, so they won't
Okay.
see either of us. So yeah, maybe that'll work. I don't know if it'll really change anything because I don't. I mean, usually on regular Hangouts live stream that works, but I don't think it's ever worked on uh, OBS. So then I mean, let's go one by one. These people, you don't have to go that long because
Sure.
I don't think people will care that much because here in America, people forget basically anything that they can't even remember the important shit that we have to deal with. So
Well, same here. The memory, there is a disease of short-term memory loss here. Long-term too. It's amazing.
so they have Marina Silva, who we just talked about, who is Skeletor,
Yeah.
and then there's Ciro Gomez. Anything to say about him?
Yes. Well, this dude is a thug. He's a complete thug. If I can even send to you if you want. He's known for beating up journalists. He really confronts people that are against him, but I mean physically confronts them. And he has a really really big stupid mouth. In the now his campaign promise for presidency is that. Okay, how can I explain that? Here in Brazil, if you have some debt that you are not paying, there is this list that the commerce has access to. That you pretty much have a bad name and you can't get any sort of mortgage, finance, anything until you pay your debt.
Mm-hmm.
He promised that he's gonna pay this debt for everybody here in Brazil.
Yeah, he sounds like a real winner there.
Yeah.
Then there's Geraldo Alckmin, who I think I've heard his name before several times.
Yeah, he's basically he's from the Social Democrat Party, and people here are so much leaning to they are so leaned to the left that they considered him a far right winger. They even until Bolsonaro showed up, he was the Hitler guy, and he basically he's like how can I describe him?
Is he like Mitt Romney?
Yeah, I'd say so. His nickname here, people call him here Cucumber Popsicle. Because he's nothing, you know, and and him and everybody from his party loves being beaten up by the far left. I don't know. I think they get something out of it. I can't explain,
So
but
you're trying to say
they love it.
they're like huge pussies or something?
Yeah, they're huge pussies or huge cucks. I don't know what would be the best description of them, but they love it. For example, instead of bashing the far left and bashing Lula on his campaign, he's dedicating his whole campaign in bashing Bolsonaro, while the left is bashing him.
Yeah, he sounds completely like Jeb Bush or
yeah. I think he's more like Jeb Bush. Total low energy.
This is fun, man. This is you got this other guy Alvaro Diaz.
This guy is hilarious. I can't say I know a lot about him, but he basically made a fame by being one of the leaders in the opposition to Dilma Rousseff in the impeachment process. He was basically one of the leaders, and he's kind of well, I would say that pretty much everybody here in the politics are center left, but he's in that center left, more liberal economies. But if they try to dig his past, they're gonna probably find a lot of shit about him. He's another dude that has been in politics forever, and I honestly can't tell why the hell is he running for a presidency. I really don't know.
So yeah, they're saying our video still sucks. Nothing I can do. Then you got who's the next guy? Joe.
I think the video is good now.
Nah, they're still complaining about it. I mean, I guess nothing I can do because I also don't want to lose the Hangouts.
Yeah, sure.
So then there's Joe Amoedu of Novo. I actually read about this guy. He seems like a different idea, a little more of a libertarian.
Yeah, his party actually the idea that they are suggesting sounds quite interesting. Their policy is basically reducing the size of the state. That's all they are looking for. It's quite interesting. I think the problem is that he has no chance of winning. He's not showing up to the debates. I'm not even sure if they have TV time on the electoral propaganda here, which is also something really funny if you want to talk about how the election propaganda works here, that it's mandatory and all the TV networks have to broadcast it, and the people pay for it.
That's the way it was in Israel. I remember that. It was kind of
in Israel it's like that
funny.
too, right?
Yeah, it actually wasn't a bad idea because you don't have to worry about it all day. You just tune in. I don't know if it's that way in Brazil, but in over there, it's like 1 hour every week, and then the rest of the time you can do whatever the hell you want and watch anything
Here,
else.
if I'm not wrong, it's like 1 hour every day. I'm not totally sure.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess maybe you guys have the same experience. People would just tune in to see how retarded every ad was.
Oh yeah, just for the lols.
Yeah, exactly. And then there was, and the Communist Party there had like the best videos, even though they were a bunch of
Yeah,
backstabbing assholes.
yeah.
Enrique Meireles, am I saying his name right?
Yeah,
Enrique.
you are. He was, if I'm not wrong, he was the minister of economy in previous governments. I think even during Lula government. And I was listening in some news here, something that I totally agreed. His role in the election is not to win, but it's to direct the stigma from the Temer government, from people like Álvaro Dias and Alckmin, and direct to him. He's pretty much there as a scapegoat for the Temer government. If you hate Temer, let's bash this guy and leave people like Alckmin and Álvaro Dias alone. He's basically there as a scapegoat. That's his role there.
Okay, and then we have one more guy, Guilherme Bulos. Is that his name?
Yeah, Guilherme Boulos. This dude is a totally asshole. He's the. I don't know if he's the leader, but he's a really prominent figure in the. I don't know if you know about the Sem Terra and the Sem Teto here in Brazil. The collectivist farmers, I'd say that they are. That they go on the farms, they take over farms, they steal it. They also invade the buildings and houses and take them over.
Yeah, I heard that he is basically the consummate communist,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
I know that we have. Do you know who Glenn Greenwald is?
Sorry, who?
Glenn Greenwald.
No.
So Glenn Greenwald is this journalist here in the U.S. who's basically really far left, and I think he lives in Brazil, but of course he publishes his stuff in English. And
Hmm.
I think him and his husband, because he's like some gay dude,
Hmm.
like really flamboyantly gay, like they all support this guy because they want Brazil basically to be like all the other countries that have turned into basically hellholes over there in South America. So
Yeah, there are lots
that
of foreigners that support this kind of shit here, and my theory is it's because these people like to do they enjoy doing misery porn tourism. They like going to miserable places and see, oh, how these people, oh, look, they life is rough for them. That's beautiful. That's awesome. I think I don't get why they do that. It's just a theory.
yeah, the real issue that I'm seeing is that they're very good at convincing people that they care about what's going on in any of these countries, whether it's Brazil and I know that Brazil, for example, doesn't get along with Argentina anyway, but I mean they're always trying to make this bullshit idea that Brazil and Argentina and Uruguay or whatever, and all these countries could just get along better if they just embraced this completely like retarded lack of property. Just basically become communist countries. And
Yeah,
the fact of the matter is that there's nothing. I mean, I have a neighbor who's from Argentina, and he says, yeah, everybody in Chile hates Argentina, and vice versa. They just literally cannot stand each other, and
yeah.
there's no reason for it. Everybody knows it's bullshit.
It's because of soccer, dude. It's not because of politics. It's because of soccer.
Yeah, he said. Yeah, it's also. I think he said it's because of soccer, food, and I guess some of it is because of wars that have happened like a long time ago, but not that much.
Hmm.
So so we've gone through all the candidates. How about we check out the video, the Danny Glover video? Now, in order for you to hear it, you'll have to just play it on your end. So I'll just let you know. Should we just play it all the way through, or do you want me to?
I don't even know. I pretty much got the first link I found and sent you,
Yeah.
but I think
So
it's an
I'll
interview. There's a shorter one if you prefer.
I'll try to pause it if I see something important, and then I'll tell you that I paused it at the time. I do it all the time with the other guy I have another guy who's on this channel all the time, Adrian, if you've ever seen him. So yeah, I'll start now. So you ready?
Yeah, I have to play it here myself too. I did not get it.
Yeah,
wrong.
otherwise you can't hear it.
Ah, okay, sure.
Okay, so
Okay.
press play.
Okay.
Cover, e nós temos a intérprete, que é a Priscila. Então ele vai fazer uma fala e a Priscila vai traduzir, tá bom?
15 minutos, né, Neu?
So you're saying they're giving him 15 minutes. This is after 10 seconds. 15 minutes to tell Brazil why they should remain with Lula and keep believing in him. So press play at 10 seconds.
I had the opportunity to visit my friend Lula da Silva, and it was a wonderful short meeting. He was very calm and confident that the work that Brazilian social movements are doing,
Probably very drunk too.
Brazilian citizens
No, that's him all the time.
provide
Yeah.
distorted, provide us the real information instead of the distorted lies that have been presented against him.
Então eu tive a oportunidade de me reunir com meu amigo Lula. Foi uma excelente reunião, apesar de curta, e eu pude ver que ele está bastante calmo, bastante tranquilo e confiante no trabalho dos movimentos sociais que estão dando continuidade ao trabalho dele próprio.
Yeah, pause at 58 seconds. I think she left out like the important part where he said that the media is lying.
Yeah, and but did he really talk about social movements, or she's making it up? Because the audio here is kind of...
He said that. He said that, but the part where he says that the media is lying, she didn't. I mean, I thought I heard that. Did you hear that?
About the media?
Yeah, he said that, and I
Yeah.
don't think she said anything
Yeah.
about it.
No.
Yeah, what a roach.
It's the Brazilian quality of journalism, dude. It's amazing here.
I mean, it's not like we're that much better anymore. So,
Yeah, that's
All
true.
All right, so 58 seconds. Press play.
Okay.
I've had the responsibility of talking to and speaking to many people in this country, those people who are supportive of justice, not only for the Brazilian people, but justice for Lula da Silva as well.
Oh my God, what a fool.
Eu tive a oportunidade de conversar com muitas pessoas aqui no Brasil, pessoas que são responsáveis não apenas pela justiça para o povo brasileiro, mas pela justiça para o Lula também.
Because you got this one right.
Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't get it. All those celebrities, if I'm not wrong, also Ridley Scott supported Dilma Rousseff in her campaign.
Probably Oliver Stone.
Oliver Stone.
I don't think Ridley
Yeah.
Scott's really political. I think Ridley Scott just likes movies where people get eaten by aliens. So,
Yeah, I'm gonna check it out that later. But well, yeah, you might be right.
so at 134, I think I missed like one of his comments. So I'll start it at 129.
Okay.
My visit has brought me to Rio de Janeiro, has brought me here to Curitiba, has brought me also to Sao Paulo to talk with people and to hear their voices as well.
A minha visita me levou ao Rio de Janeiro, me levou a São Paulo e me levou também a Curitiba aqui para conversar com as pessoas e ouvi-las também.
And the information that as a
I wonder what
goodwill
people he
ambassador-
talked to.
Yeah, I mean, he basically. By the way, for anybody who doesn't know, Danny Glover is not just some. I mean, he's a celebrity, and everybody knows him from the Lethal Weapon movies. But he's actually directly involved in far left media, like as an investor. So those of you that follow my channel, I have this segment I sometimes do called the For Real News, and Danny Glover happens to be a trustee of the Real News Network. And he donates a lot of money to it, and he is one of those, swamp monsters that supports this bullshit media or whatever. Now, I guess technically, I can't say that he doesn't have the right to do it, but he can't pretend that he's just some disinterested observer. He is literally part of the propaganda apparatus that is in favor of keeping these politicians from being accountable. So that's what I think about Danny Glover. Even though he has the right to freedom of speech, he goes over there and he's like pretending, I'm just a celebrity, like trying to get involved in something that I think is important. No, you are literally involved in what Lula does. You're part of the whole mess.
Yeah.
That's my response to that. So play at 154.
For the United Nations Decade of African Descendants, my information that I've been able to receive from all those social movement groups that I've spoke to will provide me with the information that I will present to representatives in my own country and congressional leaders and others as I meet with them over the question of democracy and the restoration of democracy in Brazil.
Então, na minha capacidade de embaixador da boa vontade no âmbito da década da
Oh my god, that's so cringy.
So we're pausing at 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So, but what do you want, Revan Starkiller? He wants to restore democracy to your country. Don't you think you should help him?
That way, no thanks. Sometimes, if I'm in a really bad mood, sometimes I wish that the what the left says about the US interfering in South America would be true, and that they would just nuke Venezuela or something like that. But it's just when I'm in a bad mood. Otherwise, no, I don't want it.
Yeah, the truth is, I mean, people watch my channel. It's not like I tell the people, oh, we need to go to war in Venezuela or whatever. I say, no, why would we? I'm even against sanctions. I don't think the sanctions will really matter. The countries that would be sanctioned, like Nicaragua and Venezuela, will probably
it just reinforce their narrative.
Yeah, I mean, why even be involved? Why don't we just say, well, we're just not going to do any business with you, so we'll do no state business with you. If anybody's dumb enough to do business with you in the private sector, then you'll probably just screw them over anyway, and people will get the reputation will precede these countries, and people will be like, yeah, we're not going to invest in that place. They're just going to take our shit, and we'll get nothing for it. So that's my attitude. I'm not one of these people who wants like a new Contra war in Nicaragua or anything, or any of the other countries for that matter. Nicaragua is one of the smaller poor countries. I mean, we've been involved.
It was actually watching. Sorry, it was actually watching your channel that I kind of shifted a bit my opinion on this. It's actually two things that watching your channel that I changed my mind a lot. It's that those things about the intervention, because some years ago I would honestly wish that the US would intervene here, because I still believe that the situation in Venezuela is hopeless. And the stuff you say about Zionism, dude, what you say makes a lot of sense. And thank you, man. You made things more clear for me.
Like what do you mean? Like in terms of the Corbyn stuff, or in terms of the?
No, about that you say that you are fed up with these people that don't even live in Israel, and they declare themselves Zionists and shit like that.
Yeah, I think like there's so much, and there's a parallel on the left in terms of the same people who say, oh, all the time I'm virtue signalers for Palestine or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think if people really want something to change, they should let the people there, just figure things. The same attitude I bring to Latin America in terms of coverage, and I've never been there, by the way, but I think that we should let Latin America just negotiate with us on equal terms, and just obviously we should report honestly what's happening there. But we shouldn't intervene there. But it's the same attitude I bring to what's happening in the Middle East, and not just to Israel. So if people say, well, we should intervene in the Middle East, whether it's on one side or the other, I say, well, convince me that's going to change something. Okay, I'm not trying to tell people we should never intervene anywhere ever, but there should be like a real justification. There should be like some way. Look, I mean, we have Arjun in the chat who's talking all the time about India and Pakistan, but he's never told me. I mean, he has the opportunity now, but he's never told me that the U.S. should invade Pakistan or something.
Yeah.
Now he's going to do it just to fuck with us. But the thing is, I think we should America. I think we're I work with a guy who's from he's from I guess his family's from Puerto Rico, and he's not political, but he keeps telling me in brief conversations, he's like, yeah, America is the best country in the world. Why would anybody want to live anywhere else? So I think
totally true.
I think if the best thing we can do is advise other countries on how to make things freer and more with less I mean, I'm being redundant, but get the government out of the way of the individual, and that's how I think we should behave towards any country, whether it's Russia, whether it's Bosnia, whatever it is. So, do you want to keep going with this video, or do you think he's kind of putting people to sleep?
Well, it's your call, but I kind of agree with you. There's a shorter video that he recorded. It's like 58 seconds.
Yeah, you can send it to me.
And it's funny. Brazilian media, dude, it's really something. The title of the video: actor from Hollywood, Danny Glover, records video supporting Lula. Like, listen, dude, listen to him. He's an actor from Hollywood.
Well, let's see it. Okay, here we go. So, let's exit out of the other one.
Sabe aquele ator de Hollywood, Danny Glover, famoso por papéis em filmes como Predador 2 e Máquina Mortífera?
They're like, oh, the famous actor from Hollywood from Predator 2.
Look how important we are. Hollywood people is talking about us. Yeah.
The guy from Predator 2 and Lethal Weapon. Yeah, that would be like here if somebody were to say, well, listen to Gary Coleman, who, rest in peace, who was Gary Coleman was the child actor that never grew up. So that's how important Danny Glover is here. Nobody cares what. I mean, the last time anybody cared what Danny Glover said was when he was saying that cab drivers are racist in New York and you can't get a cab if you're black, which is true, but I mean,
but nobody can get a cab in New York. Isn't that saying that it's impossible for anybody to get a cab there?
Yeah, I mean, there is a problem with that, but I mean, I don't live in New York, so it's not my problem. So, anyway, so let's keep hearing this.
Sure.
Pois é, ele também é ativista contra a desigualdade racial e pelos direitos humanos e dos trabalhadores. E foi como ativista que Danny Glover divulgou um vídeo em que declara apoio a Lula e critica o ataque da.
So if I understand what she said that he has he's talking about inequality and social justice, and so I think she even mentioned that he's a chavista.
Oh yeah, I didn't get. What's your time stamp there?
I'm at 19 now.
Okay, I'm at 15. No, I think she mentioned that he's a racial activist, and he is an activist for the workers' rights.
Yeah, sure. Workers' rights, my ass. But yeah, let's keep going. That's it. Yeah, we'll just watch it the whole way through. Play.
Direita que o ex-presidente vem sofrendo. Vamos ver.
President Lula, you have been a champion for workers for decades and have inspired workers all over the world. I want you to know at this time, as you are under attack by Brazil's right wing, despite all the gains that you've made for workers, I support you.
Yeah, that was very effective.
Didn't age well. He didn't age well at all, right?
Yeah, I was about to say, he looks like he's basically like going fishing in Michigan, and he's trying to find his dentures or something. So, I mean, I mean, do people in Brazil actually listen to somebody like this and say, "Hey, maybe we're wrong about Lula after all"? They do?
Yeah, unfortunately, yes. Well, dude, it's a celebrity from Hollywood. You have to listen to what he says.
Yeah, we have to send Vince Vaughn over there who will say, "No, I've been in better movies than Danny Glover. You should listen to me. You should vote for. You should vote for. I mean, I guess anybody but Lula." Or I mean, you actually made the point that there's some other guys that are just as dirty as him that are all. I mean, would you say that he's the worst that there could be as president again, or is there anybody that you fear more?
In the current situation, I don't really have a strong opinion on that because I mean, if he comes back to the presidency, me and my wife, we are leaving. We are out of here. Because I think he's capable of bringing the country down and put it in a situation like Venezuela. And here I believe the process would be much faster than it was in Venezuela. I don't know if you heard about the trucker strikes that happened here recently.
No, I didn't hear about that.
Dude, in a matter of less than 2 weeks, we already had food shortages. We already had the government interfering in pricing. We had the police going to markets and checking if the prices are fair. And that in a matter of less than 2 weeks, because all the truckers in Brazil stopped. They went on strike. And I hear that stuff like train and sea transport are totally underdeveloped. So we rely 100% on truckers. And it was in a matter of less than 2 weeks. Things here were starting to look really bad. You had like kilometric lines for people to refuel their cars. There were shortage of all sorts of things, of gas, of food, and that was in 2 weeks.
So these are you're saying like these truckers, are they petistas? Are they pro Lula people?
No, it was I don't know, Brazil. What happens here? I don't know if it's reality or a Monty Python sketch, because so like this, the truckers that started the strike, they call themselves right wingers, and they wanted less taxes. But they also wanted for the government to I forgot the term, subsidize diesel.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they wanted lower taxes, and they wanted the military coup. They wanted the military to intervene.
Yeah, we have the same issue. I mean, in the U.S., we have like the Teamsters Union, which is like more right wing than it is a little more right wing than the other unions, not too much, but it's the same idea. They also want. I think they do want the gasoline subsidies, and I mean, I guess like the real issue I think what we're seeing here is that Brazil, they have all this stuff going for them, and of course they have the guy from Predator 2 and Lethal Weapon there to stand up for your rights, which I guess you're welcome. You guys can keep him, but the issue that I'm seeing here is that there's a lot of artistic freedom in Brazil. There's a lot of I guess the press isn't completely repressed like over here, like in some other countries. Maybe I'm wrong, but
the media here is totally biased for the left. They 100% of the media bought in this idea of the gender wage gap, about this recent feminist stuff. They totally jumped in 100%. Just like really underground stuff, independent media that's talking against this. The whole rest of the media is with this bias.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I guess so. Maybe I'm not as in tune with it, but I think so. Therefore, you could probably say that Brazil is kind of the model of what like what the U.S. could be in a bad way, because there's really like a lot of people, they do want to get rid of the electoral college, and I'm not going to say we should have the electoral college be the decider of everything, but that like in Congress, I think there should be a little more. Like some of the seats should be elected proportionally here in the U.S. But it is good that we, at least in many of the districts, keep people accountable directly to the district or something. But people want it to basically be the way that Brazil sounds right now.
And I always say that. Do you remember that cartoon, the Super Friends? That there were the Bizarro Super Friends.
The Super Friends from Saturday Night Live.
No, from the League of the Justice League cartoon.
Justice
from
League.
the
Okay, I remember this. Yeah,
they called them the Super Friends. Yeah, and there were the Bizarro Justice League. I always call Brazil the Bizarro Dimension US. We are like everything that could have happened in the US that could have went wrong happens here. It's pretty much like that.
Well, at least you don't have like tons of fat people walking around and demanding things. Or do you? Do you have that?
I think we're starting with that. It's starting to become a trend. Also,
don't tell me that I mean, I'm losing all hope now. If the fat pride thing goes, I mean, I'm like really
with
out of
women,
shape,
it's totally happening. Between the feminists, it's totally happening. Totally happening.
Yeah, that's gonna
Body
that's,
positivity, all the sort of shit. It's starting to become more mainstream here because since Brazil is an undeveloped country, there are lots of the ideas that let's say that the American left has about the transgender stuff, the gay marriage, all these ideas that the left here resisted them for quite a while. I'm gonna give you an example. I have one of my grandfathers. He was a member of the Communist Party of Brazil. And he was nowadays he's not so much. I think he's more tolerant nowadays. But he used to be one of the most homophobic people that I've ever seen in my entire life. And he was a hardcore communist. So for a lot of time, I think it's due to the fact that it's a poor country overall. The left kind of resisted this idea. But I'd say that since the 2014 elections, that we started seeing candidates with this platform, it's starting to move on this field of transgender issues, body positivity, especially between feminists. We have that soap brand Dove. I think that's how you pronounce their name.
yeah, Dove.
Yeah, Dove. Yeah, with fat women in underwear dancing.
Oh, for Christ's sakes, are you serious?
Yep.
All right,
We have that sort of shit here too.
Should
There's
we play
also
that
some
video,
Brazilian
or do you think
singer.
it's too much for the people?
Well,
The Dove.
let's see.
Let me see. I'll try to find it. Dove.
Okay.
Soap Brazil. 1 second. Well, it would be how do you say soap in Portuguese? Zabão? Or is it?
Sabão. There's like creams also that they sell.
And that would be, I don't even know how to say fat in Portuguese.
Gorda.
Okay, so it's the same as in Spanish.
I'm trying to find it.
Yeah, I guess I'll just let you send it in because we could get something.
Yeah, I'm trying to. There's also some Brazilian singer that is showing up now. That every so often, that if I'm like zapping through channels, she'll show up. Do you know that German lady that she pretty much became black? I forgot her name.
Oh man, yeah, I remember that. That was like really bizarre.
Yeah, we have a Brazilian singer here in Brazil that it's exactly like her.
What?
Yeah. I'm trying to remember her name because I never bothered to look into her name.
Well, while you're still searching, we have Arjun says U.S. celebs interfering with Brazilian politics are very similar to the Trudeau statements during his India trip. Yeah, when that happened, when Justin Trudeau, just as an aside, when Justin Trudeau went to India, I think that's the first time 1 billion people laughed at the same person at the same time. I mean, the guy was he was basically he took time out of his schedule as the leader of a first world country in order to look like a complete idiot for the second largest country in the world, in terms of population. I think personally, if I was Canadian, I probably would have been like tearing my eyebrows out when he did that, because and it's the same thing that Trudeau does all the time now. Apparently, when what's it called? Mexico signed the trade deal with America. Trudeau's foreign minister, Chrystia Freeland, was in Germany, like doing some sort of stupid press conference talking about how important it is to have good relations with Germany and to maintain, the liberal world order or whatever. Well, in a few months, if they don't get a trade deal with the U.S., Canada's economy will virtually melt down because there's no reason for a lot of these manufacturers that export to the U.S. to maintain like a plant in Canada when they can just as well move right across the lake to Michigan or to Ohio or to, I guess, Pennsylvania and do the same business over there. But yeah, so did you find that fat girl soap commercial?
No, the Dove ad, I'm not managing to find it. Yeah.
So I guess
So I
I'll
think
show
we're
one.
gonna spare your audience of that, but I'm trying to find the singer too, because
Okay.
that is hilarious.
While you're doing that, I'm gonna play this video from Lula, and I'll try to translate. I'm probably not as good at translating as you are, obviously, but I'll try to send it to you in the chat over
Sure.
here, so that at least you can play it while looking for the fat woman video.
Começa agora o programa Lula Presidente, Haddad Vice.
Let's see this.
13.
Tenho andado por
Oh,
todo o
it's this
país,
propaganda
cruzado
piece,
por
right?
muitas
Right.
histórias. É grande a saudade que as pessoas sentem do tempo de Lula.
Dude, this Haddad guy, he was the mayor of São Paulo. Did you know that in the year that the Soviet Union collapsed, he was getting his degree on political science, and the paper that he wrote for his degree was about the fact that the Soviet Union is going to last for thousands of years.
Yeah, sounds like a real winner. I bet he picks horse races very well.
Yeah, he's a total douche.
Yeah, 1 second. I think my dad just walked in. He's working outside here. I'll be back. Meanwhile, you can shit talk the audience if you want.
Okay,
So,
sure.
Hold on. What's up, Dad?
Hello there, Mr. Lenny McCarthy. How are you doing? Arjun. Who else is here? Flame of Anor. Sunday Konfarov is here. A trucker strike would paralyze the economy of Brazil because they are heavily dependent on road transport and the rail network is not so developed. Totally true. It's exactly that, Arjun. Lenin, ask if Raven thinks transgender should be allowed in Miss Boom Boom.
Raven, can you get this? Can you do this for 5 more minutes? I have to let my dad out the driveway.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, no problemo.
All right, hold on.
Lenny, I don't know, but maybe they're already allowed in. I don't pay much attention on this Miss Boom Boom stuff. But have you heard of the death toll of people that do plastic surgery in their butts here in Brazil and they end up dying because they do like in the backyard of some random non-doctor? And there is the case of the Dr. Boom Boom. It's really something. And I believe the connection is quite laggy. I think what I'm reading here is way behind. A bit of that there. And I don't really know what to say since there is this huge lag between me and the chat. Lenin says Bizarro. Yes, we are the Bizarro United States of America. We are the incarnation of everything that could have went wrong with the US. It happens here. You're welcome. Arjun, earlier you were talking about Megadeth, that they have a Brazilian guitar player, right? Let me see if I can find here what you were saying. Arjun also said Hitler was a socialist, not right-wing. Yeah, I agree with you. I said that Hitler was a right-winger. Yeah, I said that. I mean, I don't consider him really a leftist, like a Marxist, but yeah, I don't think he's a right-winger. Let's see what else. Here, going off topic, are you a fan of band Angra? What are your thoughts on Kiko joining Megadeth? I think he's a really good addition for Megadeth. I've never been a fan of Angra. Angra, I don't know how you guys would pronounce. Here we say Angra. But they are really, really talented musicians. I mean, I've been to their concerts and it's amazing to see them play. Even if you don't really enjoy their sound, it's really cool. Lots of cool bands here in Brazil. There's Sepultura that used to be really cool. Nowadays, they are just a shadow of the former. Them. Oh my god, I can't pronounce shit. They're just a shadow of their former selves. But really lots of influential bands here. And before anybody asks, no, I don't like samba. I actually hate samba. Makes my ears bleed. I think I'm gonna refresh the page here to see if it catches up with the chat. Because I think I'm really behind. Here we go. I listen to too many Joe Rogan podcasts. Now when I hear Brazilian accent, I think jiu-jitsu fighter. Yeah, I fight jiu-jitsu. I'm really good jiu-jitsu. I'm black belt. I'm black belt. My accent is that bad? A bit more of that there, because it's really laggy, really laggy. What could I say while Mr. Bold doesn't come back? I don't know. I should maybe prepare myself better for this. Yeah.
All right, I'm back.
Hello, Bold.
So,
Mr. Bold.
you guys talking a lot of smack while I was gone, or anything interesting?
Yeah, I was trying to rant. No, I was talking random shit pretty much. And there's a huge lag between the what am I saying in the chat, so I couldn't really catch up with what they were saying.
Yeah, like I think that they're really behind for some reason because of the, because of the issue with the video. But I did see the question about the most boom boom pageant.
Yeah, people here are obsessed with butts. It's there's a lot of people that are dying because of that.
So Arjun had this question earlier. Do you love Angra? What do you think of Kiku Lureru joining Megadeth? Are you
I don't really like. Well, nowadays not as much. I just have a long hair because I'm lazy. But I used to be a lot into metal in the past. Angra, I never liked them, but I think they're like really, really talented musicians. I've been to their concert. It's jaw-dropping to see them playing live. And I like Megadeth, so I think him joining them, it's really cool.
So maybe we'll play some of their stuff since we're basically done.
Yeah, there is some video clip about like the New World Order and the globalists. And
so is it Nova Era, maybe?
Nova Era?
Yeah.
You mean by Angra or by Megadeth? Because
Angra.
I was Angra. I just know their mainstream stuff. Let's see, Angra. Let's see if I can send you something.
Yeah, we'll play something since we owe you for playing in Kidabelia. Do a lot of people hate them over there, or is it just you?
Kidabelia?
Yeah.
All the metalheads here hate them because of this story of the Iron Maiden concert. I don't know who was the genius that had that idea.
Yeah, it sounds like putting Menudo to open for like Marilyn Manson or something.
Yeah. Put that old band that you guys had of the kids, Hanson?
Hanson, yeah. Hanson, yeah. Menudo was like the Puerto Rican Hanson. Like
yes,
before
we had
Hanson
those
existed.
here too.
So I'll just play this Angra one, this Nova Era.
Yeah.
1 second. So.
Didn't a lot of Brazilians go on GAB because of censorship? Lenin is asking. Well, I should create a GAB account myself, but I don't know if there are lots of Brazilians there. I
You
never
should,
checked it
because
out.
we're all. I mean, me and Lennon are on GAB. I don't know about Archie.
Oh, I'll surely make an account there.
Yeah, we could at least have somebody to talk to besides ourselves.
Yeah. That would be cool because there's like the only thing forbidden there is doxing, right?
Yeah.
All the rest is okay.
Yeah, that's some pretty
cool.
like edgy shit on the app.
Yeah, I imagine. Did you find something from Angra there? Because,
yeah,
well,
I'm playing it right now.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I can't hear
I'll
it.
send you the... Well, yeah, you might want to just turn the stream on. Like unmute the stream.
Sure. But only if it works out, otherwise don't worry.
Well, we're already like a minute and a half through the song.
It's fine. The Angra vocalist, did you know that he was supposed to replace Bruce Dickinson when he left Iron Maiden?
He doesn't look, I mean, maybe he sounds like Bruce Dickinson, but he looks like Dave Mustaine.
But maybe you were, because they had lots of different vocalists.
Oh.
Yeah. The original one, I think his name is André Matos. That dude was amazing. I don't even like the style, but I don't know. He had a privileged throat, I'd say.
So the video kind of buffered, so I guess we'll do anything anyway. So maybe we can wrap up since we're almost 2 hours. But so Raven, so do you have a YouTube channel? Is there anything you want to promote? Any final words before we go?
Well, I don't really have a YouTube channel. I kind of uploaded some joke video about the debate, but if you guys want to follow me there, maybe I'm going to start putting some more stuff. And recently, I also started streaming on Twitch.
Mm-hmm. But for gaming?
Yeah, for gaming, but I'm also looking forward in maybe doing talk stuff there, chat there, and upload it later to YouTube, because since on YouTube my account is new, I can't really stream from it. So,
really?
Yeah, you need a minimum view, a minimum number of hours of viewed stuff in order for them to let you stream nowadays.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous on their part.
Yeah, they're really cracking down on that. But on Twitch, my handle is the same of my Twitter, is at Kang Lobster. It's KANG_LOBSTAH. It's the same there on Twitch and the same of Twitter.
Okay. So anyway, so this was, of course, this was the Brazil election stream. Arjun wants us to play Ojos Verdes by Angra. Is that a good song? We can play it.
I have no idea, honestly.
So
the most famous song, if I can recommend one, look for Carry On. It's their most famous song, and it's really good.
So it's, let me see. Okay. I think I'm going to end up getting a strike since I didn't check if these are YouTube cleared.
Yeah.
Is there like
that's
hardcore
another reason
copyright
why.
in Brazil?
Yeah, for music content there is, but that's one thing I like about Twitch, is that there they don't give a fuck about those things. I mean, if you have like copyrighted music, people can watch it live, no problem. But then if they play it back, if their algorithm catches it up, then they mute the parts where there's copyrighted stuff. But it's not always that it works. I mean, sometimes they let it pass.
So anyway, we were talking about Brazilian politics for the past 2 hours. Of course, I think that there are a number of famous things that Brazil is known for. First of all, football, or soccer as we call it here in the U.S. There's also a lot of drugs.
Lots of drugs here. Yeah, that's true.
And rave parties and prostitution and